everybody. Tim Whitney, Ken Speegle here. Uh, in light of some events happening in the market today, we want to get on here and kind of do a public service announcement of a scam that's going around. It's a land sale scam. Um, Ken unfortunately got firsthand knowledge of it over the last couple of weeks. He's here to give us a rundown on what happened.
Yeah, I just did. Just kind of know that we all got to be careful out there. So kind of started one morning. Um, I have the CRS designation, so there's a referral network, and it's pretty thorough. But this guy came in through that. So my initial contact with him was through a phone call. Um, the He was wanting to sell a vacant piece of property here in Eagle River. He was very, very hard to understand on the phone. So it was a very hard conversation. It wasn't like the individual had an accent. It was more kind of like some sort of a hearing impairment. I felt that could have been on a phone that has, for the people that have those problems. But anyhow, he wanted to sell the property really quick. Um, Said that he did establish that he lived out of state. Uh, so I told the individual, hey, give me a little time. I'll get back with you in a couple of hours, and we can discuss pricing, time frame, those kind of things. So once I sat down and looked at the property, I pulled it up on the tax records. It still had a property tied to him in Anchorage. So, I mean, those things happen. He could have had rental property. I don't know, but it was kind of odd. So then the next piece of it called the individual back. Here again, we had a lot of trouble communicating over the phone. So I drafted an email, kind of outlined some different things. So I told him a price, and he asked me what would make that sell quicker. So he wanted to reduce it right off the bat from my market analysis. And most of us know most people are going up, not down. So it was kind of kind of a little unusual. So then he just said that he wanted to list with me. I did all the listing documents. The email DocuSign. He was very familiar with DocuSign, and one of the things the gentleman, when I looked it up, he had owned the property since 1980. So you kind of figuring he's a little bit older. So sometimes we have to do a little coaching with DocuSign and those kind of things. This guy was all over it. He was very proactive. Being a 4 hour difference in our time zone, he was pretty much Johnny on the spot. So we went ahead and listed it. It's a very popular property. We ended up getting multiple offers on it. So the offer that he went with was the one that had the shortest closing time, and they had an escalation clause in there, so it also ended up being the most profitable with that escalation clause. So he seemed to be very happy. Then the next step, we opened title, and the title companies are, they try to get as much information up front. So they sent me a client information sheet. Could you have the client fill this out? So I was pretty adamant to get that to him, and then it was kind of difficult. He asked me if I could do it on DocuSign so he could fill it out. So I did that, and then here's where came the largest red flag in this is his mailing address. So he had the mailing address put down to the same as what was on the tax records here. So I'm like, well, he told me he lived in Florida, so why are you listing an Anchorage address? Also, the three phone numbers, the cell phone for him, cell phone for his wife, and the home number were all the same. Um, he didn't have his wife's email address on there, which that's, and her email address was very strange. His was a little odd too. So I said, okay, well, let's text the guy because he was very good by text, which somebody in their 80s, I mean, I struggle in my 50s. So
Right.
so, I texted him. I said, hey, before I send this to the title company, I just noticed that you have your mailing address here in Anchorage. So, did you intend to do that, or could you list your address in Florida? So, right off the bat, without any hesitation, he said, the title company will email me. That's my home record. Title company will email me all the documents. I have a notary that's close, and just make sure they send the overnight envelope. So, red flag. He's very well versed in the process of closing. So then I said, okay, we need to get a little bit more information from this guy. So I told him that we're going to need copies of him and his wife's driver's license. So as soon as I said that, he went cold for about a day. Didn't hear from him. Hey, can you get me that stuff? So then he finally sent me at a very odd hour for somebody in their 80s in Florida uh, a copy of his Alaska driver's license. And I mean, it was spot on. I pulled my driver's license out, laid it, looked at it. I said, well, okay, this is just getting stranger by the minute. But where's your wife's? So then in a text he sent me, he said, well, I've got to come clean. My wife passed away 7 years ago, and I've been docu-signing all of her side of the documents. I was the primary owner, which no, you're not because you're both half primary owner, and I just figured we would do it that way. Well, that's not going to work because how is she supposed to go to the notary and sign? It's just he didn't have time to make a fake driver's license for her. Or so our MLS had sent out an email. I guess these scams are kind of going around, and with these red flags, we decided to start doing a little bit of investigative stuff on our own. There was a state trooper that's in Anchor Point that's working these type of cases. But before we hit him up, we just did some Google search. So we typed in the address, and it come up with a little map and all this. But oddly enough, it came with a business associated with that address, and the same last name as the guy that I was working with. And fortunately, there was a phone number there. So Tim just said, well, let's call him and act like I'm prospecting. So Tim called. We put him on speakerphone. We call the number. The guy answers it. Tim asked him, hey, is this who you are? Do you own a piece of property in Eagle River? Yes. Would you be interested in selling it? No, I'm not interested in selling it. And then, Tim, you said, hey, look, we've got a possible scam here. So we asked if he could identify the address, and he said, no, I can't remember what the address is off the top. But right away, if you've seen a plat, you know that it is lots 3 and 14, and that there's an easement. And said, yeah, well, this guy obviously knows something about this property. So then we told him that we were going to contact the state troopers. We're pretty sure that this has been a scam. So we sent the stuff to the state troopers. He here again with the driver's license, he immediately said it was fake. Also, he got in touch with the same guy that we've been talking to because there was social security numbers on this client information. So obviously this guy had gotten all of his social security numbers, all this stuff. So it probably goes deeper for the guy here locally than that. But we just all have to kind of be careful with these kind of scams that are going on, especially with vacant land.
Oh yeah. So, what were some of the key factors that made it seem odd to you?
Well, I think first off was just the communication. It seemed odd, but I mean, um, then secondly, and just how quick he could respond to other things rather than a phone call, a text, or email, DocuSign. It's like the guy was just in front of a computer. So in here again, when I said that there was a time difference of 4 hours, I think that the scammer actually is in Florida, but um, I just found it odd for somebody in their 80s to be communicating with me Florida time at 1 and 2 in the morning. I think that maybe a scammer would, but not necessarily a true seller. That and then there just had that weirdness in my gut from those couple of things, and then him willing to list the property lower than what I recommended. He needed it on the market now. He needed a very quick sale. So those are some other kind of key indicators. And then, like I said, once we got the client information back, the addresses didn't have a Florida. If he had a Florida address on there, if he'd have sent me a Florida driver's license with his, I don't know anything, but it was just all too convenient. And then, of course, once he made the statement that his wife had passed away and he'd been signing documents, I'm like, yeah. So state troopers helped us, confirmed everything. Immediately got a hold of the listing or the other realtor. We went ahead and refunded earnest money. Got with a title company. Title company did, they killed it, and then we got with our local MLS. And so the local MLS was able to go in and completely erase it, so there was no history. So I hope that our what we provided to law enforcement will help catch this guy or catch others, but all of us in this profession, especially with the vacant lots, we need to be extremely careful.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, what are some things that you think realtors could do to kind of help protect themselves from this situation?
Well, just be careful, especially if it's an outside lead. Um, you know, our business, it's most of it. Hey, my uncle wants to sell a piece of vacant property, so I have a somebody that I have a relationship with. Have I in the past ever had a listing from a lead that I'd never met? Absolutely, but you need to take the more measures to make sure that these people are up and up. Ask for photo IDs up front, verify addresses. I think I'm just going to keep this file, and if I ever have another one, I'm going to send the client information. Just hey, before we even get going, I need you to fill out all of these things. I think that would help you, and you could see those red flags before you're signing listing documents. But just you got to be very careful, double check, even things that are normal. Just put that extra layer of security in there to just double check and double check. Because I don't know exactly what the title company. I know they have a screening system, but you don't want to spend your hard or time, doing something like this. So if you can identify it up front, it's best to. Um,
Perfect, perfect. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I'm glad that your knowledge over the years picked up and you were able to stop the scam before it got too far. Uh, Hopefully nobody else runs into it, but it's a crazy market out there, so I'm sure somebody will. So,
yeah, and they're out there.
oh yeah, oh yeah. So just want to say protect yourselves, buy and sell away. Tim Whitney and Ken Speegle.